Everyone knows his name. Almost no one knows his secret. He gave the world gravity, light, and the laws of motion. But behind closed doors, he searched for something else entirely. He believed the universe held a hidden code, and he meant to crack it. This is the untold story of Isaac Newton, scientist and secret mystic. Christmas Day, 1642. A tiny, sickly baby is born in rural England. He was so small, doctors said he wouldn't survive the week. His father had died 3 months before he was born. When he was 3, his mother remarried and left him behind. He was raised by his grandmother. He rarely spoke of his mother again. That abandonment left a wound that never fully healed. He grew distant, suspicious. He trusted almost no one for the rest of his life. But alone, he built things no other child could. A working windmill, a water clock, a sundial accurate to the minute. At school, he was ranked last in his class. Then a school bully punched him in the stomach. Something in him snapped. He decided to become the best in school, just to prove the bully wrong. Within months, he was first in his class. At 17, his mother pulled him out of school to run the family farm. He was a disaster at farming. He'd forget the sheep to solve a math problem. His uncle noticed the boy wasn't lazy. He was a genius in the wrong life. He convinced Edmund's mother to send him back to school, then to university. In 1661, at 19, he entered Cambridge University. He was too poor to pay full fees, so he worked as a servant to wealthier students. He was mocked, overlooked, and alone. No one there knew what he would become. Then in 1665, the Great Plague swept through London. Cambridge University shut its doors. Every student was sent home. 23-year-old Edmund returned to the family farm, alone, with nothing but his notebooks. For 18 months, he had no teachers, no classes, no distractions. Historians now call it his year of wonders, the most productive period any scientist has ever had. One afternoon, sitting in the garden, he saw an apple fall from a tree. A simple question hit him. Why does it fall straight down, and not sideways or up? That question led him somewhere no one had ever gone. To the force that moves the entire universe. He realized the same force pulling the apple down also holds the moon in orbit around the Earth. One invisible force, holding apples to the ground and entire planets in their paths. He called it universal gravitation. It would take him 20 more years to fully prove it. But gravity wasn't his only breakthrough that year. He also invented an entirely new branch of mathematics. Calculus, the math of change and motion, used today in engineering, medicine, and space travel. He was 23 years old. He told almost no one. Next, he turned to light itself. He bought a glass prism from a local fair. Everyone believed white light was pure and simple. He proved everyone wrong. White light, he discovered, is actually every color hidden together at once. He didn't stop there. He built his own telescope, using mirrors instead of glass lenses. It was smaller, clearer, and more powerful than anything astronomers had ever used. When the plague ended, he returned to Cambridge and stunned his professors. At just 26, he was made a full professor, one of the youngest in the university's history. But success made him enemies. Scientists across Europe began to envy him. One rival scientist would haunt him for the rest of his life. A brilliant man named Robert Hooke. Hooke accused him of stealing his ideas on light. Newton was so furious, he almost quit science forever. He locked his most controversial discoveries away, some of them, for over 200 years. But what Newton locked away wasn't just rivalry. It was something far stranger. Behind closed doors, the father of modern science spent decades chasing something science says doesn't exist. The Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance said to turn ordinary metal into gold. For over 30 years, he ran secret experiments, melting, mixing, and burning metals late into the night. He wrote over 1 million words on alchemy alone, more than he ever wrote about gravity. He invented his own private code, so no one could steal his findings. To this day, some of his symbols have never been fully decoded. Why would the world's greatest scientist waste decades chasing magic gold? Because to him, it wasn't magic. He believed alchemy held real secrets about how the universe was built. But there was a price. The metals he worked with were toxic. Mercury, he tasted it. He touched it with bare hands almost every day for years. In his 50s, something changed. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating properly. He accused close friends of plotting against him. He wrote strange, paranoid letters. Historians today believe it may have been mercury poisoning, slowly affecting his mind. For nearly 2 years, he withdrew from the world entirely. But alchemy wasn't his only secret. He was also obsessed with the Bible, searching for hidden messages. He believed the ancient prophets hid real historical dates inside scripture, encoded in numbers. Important note, this was Newton's personal theory, not confirmed history, and not a religious teaching. Many scholars view it as a product of the mysticism common in his era. He spent over 50 years on this personal research, far longer than he spent on gravity. He never published most of it. He feared it would ruin his scientific reputation. He was right to worry. If the public had known, it could have destroyed everything he built. So the world's most famous scientist lived a double life. Genius by day, mystic by candlelight. Slowly, through rest and time, his mind began to recover. He returned to public life. But he was never quite the same man again. And soon, a new chapter of his life would begin. One involving crime, counterfeiters, and the king's own money. In 1696, Newton took a job no one expected. Warden of the Royal Mint. Most saw it as an easy retirement job for an aging scientist. They were wrong. England's currency was in crisis. Nearly 1 in 10 coins in circulation was fake. Counterfeiters were destroying the economy, and most were never caught. Newton approached it like any other problem, with total obsession. He redesigned England's coins to make them nearly impossible to fake. Then he did something no one expected from a scientist. He became a secret investigator. He disguised himself, visited taverns and prisons, and personally gathered evidence against forgers. He personally interrogated over 200 witnesses and suspects. One counterfeiter, William Challoner, was clever, wealthy, and untouchable. Or so he thought. Challoner had fooled the courts before. He even accused the mint of incompetence, publicly. Newton spent years quietly building an airtight case against him. In 1699, Challoner was finally convicted, largely because of Newton's relentless investigation. The scientist who once studied light and gravity had become one of England's most effective crime fighters. Around the same time, his old rival Robert Hooke died. Newton became president of the Royal Society soon after, and some say he quietly erased Hooke's portrait from its halls. Historians still argue whether that story is fully true, but the rivalry was very real. In 1705, Queen Anne knighted him. He became Sir Isaac Newton. He was the first scientist in English history ever knighted for his work. He was in his 60s now, wealthy, famous, respected. But one secret still waited to be discovered. In his final years, Newton grew quiet. He spent his evenings alone, rereading his old notebooks. He once said, "I was like a boy playing on the seashore, finding a smoother pebble, while the great ocean of truth lay undiscovered before me." In March 1727, at 84 years old, Isaac Newton died in his sleep. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, an honor usually reserved for kings. The world mourned a legendary scientist, but no one yet knew the full truth of what he'd hidden away. For 200 years, his private papers passed quietly through family hands, unread, unpublished, forgotten. In 1936, his descendants finally sold the papers at a London auction. A famous economist named John Maynard Keynes bought most of them, and was stunned by what he found. He realized the father of modern science had secretly spent most of his life on alchemy and hidden prophecy. Keynes gave him a new title. Not the first great scientist of reason, but the last of the great magicians. Today, his laws of motion guide rockets into space. His calculus powers modern engineering. His light experiments shaped modern physics. But the same brilliant mind also spent decades chasing magic gold and secret prophecy. proof that even the greatest genius in history was still, in the end, only human.